Okay, I want to say a word, and I want you to notice your immediate reaction when I say it. Ready? Muscle. Go on. Say it out loud if you're somewhere you can. Muscle. Notice what just happened in your body. Did something tighten? Did you feel a flicker of, ooh, that's not really for me? Did you maybe cringe a little? Did something in you go, I don't want to have too much muscle? Did you instantly picture a bodybuilder, someone grunting under a barbell with protruding veins? Yeah, I thought so because that was me too. For most of my adult life, the word muscle made me feel like I was in the wrong conversation, like I belonged to other people, Olympic athletes, gym obsessives, not lit women like us, women who just want to be healthy, feel good, lose some weight, and move through life with energy and confidence. And here's what I want to say to you today. That reaction to that word muscle, that instant internal cringe, it is costing you, possibly more than anything else on your health journey. Because here's the truth that nobody told us. While they were busy pointing us at treadmills and bikes and elliptical machines, telling us that that is how women get fit. Muscle is not just about how you look. Muscle is fundamentally about how you live. Muscle is what keeps your metabolism working for you instead of against you in midlife and beyond. Muscle is what protects your bones as estrogen drops. Muscle is what determines whether you can get up off the floor at 80 years old without help. And I'm going to come back to this because it is deeply personal to me. Muscle is what finally, after literal decades, helped me with something that has been disrupting my life since I was a teenager. And I want you to make one small commitment right now as you listen. Just say to yourself, I am going to stay open to this. That is all I'm asking. Because by the end of this episode, I think the word muscle might mean something completely different to you than it does right now. Now, before we get into it, I want to personally welcome you to my podcast. I'm Vera Brown, weight loss, health, and fitness coach for women 40 and above who want to lose weight and transform their health naturally and sustainably. After struggling with my weight and health for decades in the corporate world and as an entrepreneur, I lost more than 100 pounds in my mid 40s and have kept it off. No pills, no injections, no procedures, no extremes, no tracking. In my podcast, I share what worked for me, including actionable strategies. I discuss fitness, nutrition, sleep, stress, and mindset to help you achieve your weight loss and health transformation goals. Join me. Now, let's get into it. I want to start today with a story. A few weeks ago, I posted a couple of photos online. In the first one, my arms looked slim and toned. And a lovely woman commented to say that I had the quote unquote rich girl arms that she had always wanted. And I'll be honest, that felt nice to hear. I was flattered. I was genuinely touched. And then about 3 weeks later, I posted another photo, one where I was flexing my arms a little. And a different woman commented to say that I was, and I quote, too muscular for a woman and she would never want arms like mine. But here's the thing, those two photos were taken about 3 weeks apart. And if you know anything about how muscle was built, you know with absolute certainty that my muscle mass could not have changed that visibly in 3 weeks. What changed was the angle. One photo, I was relaxed. The other photo, I was literally flexing. Same arms, same body, same me, but completely different reactions from two women. And those two comments, sitting side by side in my notifications, got me thinking because I think they perfectly capture the complicated, contradictory, and deeply emotionally charged relationship that so many of us women still have with the idea of muscle. And it is that relationship I want to talk about today. So let's really get into it. When I ask the women I work with what their fitness goals are, I hear the same words come up again and again. Words like toned, slim, lean, defined. They want to look toned. They do not want to be too bulky, and they definitely don't want to look too muscular. And I want you to take a minute just now. Which one of those words just resonated with you? I'm willing to bet at least one of them is on your own wish list. And keep that in mind as we go through this episode, because by the end, how you feel about those words might shift a little. But the thing is, I completely understand where those words come from. I lived inside that same narrative for most of my adult life. Because for decades, the fitness industry marketed us women almost exclusively around appearance. And the appearance that it marketed, the goal that we should be reaching for, was very specific: slim, smooth, delicate, not too big, not too strong, not too powerful. And how were we meant to get there? You know it, and I know it. It's the aerobics classes, the running programs, the low weight, high rep circuits, the endless cardio, and all of it was positioned around creating a certain kind of female body. A female body the society decided was appropriately feminine. And real muscle, visible strength, real power was somehow not part of that picture. It was reserved for men. It was reserved for Olympic athletes. It was reserved for bodybuilders. It was definitely not for women who wanted to be healthy in the way that women were supposed to be healthy. I don't know about you, but I literally cannot count the number of aerobics classes I attended over the years. Step aerobics, regular aerobics, dance aerobics, kickboxing aerobics, martial arts aerobics. I mean, literally every variation imaginable. The endless spinning classes, the elliptical machines, the Stairmasters. And the only time I ever did anything resembling strength training was when I was competing as a tennis player as a teenager. After that, the weights fell away completely because they just didn't seem relevant. Because I genuinely believed that that's not how women were supposed to get fit and healthy. And here's the thing that genuinely makes me feel something when I think about it. It's a kind of indignation on behalf of all of us women, if I'm entirely honest. The entire narrative is not just aesthetically outdated. From a health perspective, that narrative that women are not meant to have muscle is genuinely harmful. But nobody told us. So we just kept going to our aerobics classes, our treadmills, our ellipticals, doing what we had been told was right while the research was there, sitting quietly, waiting to be read. So today I'm going to tell you what I wish somebody had told me 20 years earlier. And I'm going to do it through stories first because that is how I actually learned things. But the science will be there to back it up. So let me ask you something. Has your body been changing in your 40s, 50s, and beyond, even though you haven't really changed what you eat or how much you move? Be honest. Does it feel like the same habits are actually producing different results? Like the rules changed and nobody sent you the memo? Yeah. If you just nodded just now, I want to explain something because the answer is not what the diet industry would have you believe. It is not that you are magically trying less hard. It is not that you have let yourself go. It is actually just biology, real documented biology. And once you understand it, everything starts to make sense. Because the reality is, the research shows that around the age of 30, women begin to lose muscle quietly, gradually, not in a way that you would necessarily notice day to day, week to week, but year on year, research consistently shows that we women can lose somewhere between 3 and 8% of our muscle mass per decade if we're not actively doing something to counteract it. Now, that is a significant enough data point on its own. But here is where it gets really important for women in our 40s. Perimenopause and menopause and postmenopause, they do not just continue that gradual decline of muscle mass. Instead, they appear to accelerate it. Estrogen, which is one of the hormones that plays a key role in muscle maintenance and repair, that begins to decline during this period. And as it declines, your body becomes less efficient at building new muscle and more prone to losing the muscle it already has. I remember the first time I came across this specific piece of research, and I want to give it to you the way that it landed for me, not as a dry fact in some random paper that I was reading online. No, but as something that genuinely made me put down what I was reading and just sit for a moment because it really got the light bulb on for me. Research has found the significant muscle loss, which has its own medical name, sarcopenia, though what it matters is what it means in practice, that was present in around 3% of women in early menopause. And the research says that in post-menopause, late post-menopause, that percent jumps to nearly 30%. Now, let me say that again, 3% to nearly 30%. That is a huge difference. It's not a rounding error. That is a tenfold increase. And if you're in perimenopause right now, just like I am, or approaching it, this is your window. It's never too late to do anything. This is the moment when what you do or not do matters most for the decades ahead. And it's not just muscle. Research also shows that during this transition, the body composition tends to shift, muscle decreasing while fat increases. And that happens simultaneously, driven by the same hormonal changes in your body. So your body's not just changing because of what you eat or how much you move, it's literally changing because of what is happening hormonally inside you right now. So please let yourself off the hook for that right now. If your body's changing in ways that you can't understand and you don't agree with, it is not a lack of willpower, it is biology. But once you understand it, you can actually do something genuinely effective about it. Now, before we go any further, I need to address the thing that comes up every single time I have this conversation with a new client. And it might be something that you're thinking right now. The comment is something along the lines of, "Oh, but I don't want to get too bulky." So I want to tell you about a client I worked with. I'll call her Sarah. So Sarah came to me genuinely terrified of this. She had actually tried weights once years ago, and she had gone to a local gym for a few months, and she felt like her arms looked bigger. After a few months, she swore to herself that she would never go back to a barbell again. And when I finally persuaded her to try again properly, and that actually in perimenopause, this was very key for her overall health, but with a real program designed around her goals, she honestly was really nervous for weeks. And she kept on asking, "Are you sure? I really don't want to look like a bodybuilder. I just want to get healthy." And then one day, about sort of 3 months in, I got a voice note from her, and it just said, Vera, my arms, they look like arms, not like a man, just arms, but better, healthier. That was it. And that was the moment that she stopped being afraid. But here is why Sarah's fear was understandable, but also why it was also completely unfounded. Because the reality is that women produce roughly 10 to 20 times less testosterone than men. It's just a biological reality. And that single hormonal difference makes building large, visibly bulky muscle mass virtually impossible for most women without years of highly specialized extreme training. And just to reassure you, the women that you see in bodybuilding competitions, they've spent years, sometimes decades, pursuing exactly that outcome as a deliberate goal, following a very specialized program. It doesn't happen accidentally. This is not what happens when a woman in her 40s or 50s or beyond starts lifting weight twice a week. What actually happens is exactly what Sarah experienced. Women get stronger, they lose fat while preserving and building muscle. They feel more capable and more confident, and they look, in their own words, consistently more toned. Which leaves me to something that I want to say clearly today. Toned, that word, it's not a special fitness outcome requiring special exercises or light weights with high repetitions. No. Toned is what having muscle under less fat looks like. There's no other version of it. Muscle is the answer. It's always been the answer. We were just not told. So I want you to just do one thing for me today with the word bulky. Just set it aside for the rest of this conversation and let's talk about what you actually want your body to do for you. I want to tell you about the lunchtime gym crowd that I was part of for years, because I think some of this might resonate with you. For years, I worked in an office where a group of us, women, because it was always us women who wanted to lose weight, we had this unspoken ritual. Every lunchtime, we would troop down to the local gym and we had this shared, completely unquestioned understanding on what we were there to do. We were going to the gym to burn calories, the maximum burn in the time that we had available during our lunch break. So, what burns the most calories per hour? Cardio, obviously. So, that is what we did every single time. The treadmills, the ellipticals, the stairmasters, the bikes, all of us spread across the various cardio section, watching the calorie counter of those machines climb with a satisfaction that I can only describe as primal, because it felt good to see those calorie numbers go up and up and up. It felt like we were doing something healthy and that we're achieving our goals. But strength training and weights and barbells, none of us did that because it was in a different section of the gym. They didn't seem to burn as many calories. Walking, sure, nice, but it didn't feel like a proper workout because you just didn't get sweaty. Yoga, maybe for some stretching, but absolutely for us, it was about the calorie burn. But here's the thing, we genuinely felt good about ourselves after those sessions. You know, we were out of breath, we were sweating, we were doing the right thing as far as we were concerned. And yet, if I'm being entirely honest, looking back, weeks passed, months passed, and I cannot honestly tell you I saw much of a real change for me and for them. Now, years later, looking back, I understand why. Because cardio primarily burns calories during the session. Full stop. Strength training, actually works in a completely different way. When you build muscle, you are increasing the amount of tissue in your body that burns energy around the clock, not just during the workout itself, while you sleep, while you sit, while you do absolutely anything at all. And the more muscle you have, the more calories your body burns just existing. And at a time in life when hormonal changes are already slowing your metabolism, that difference can be enormous. Now, there is also the question of what happens to your muscle during cardio focused weight loss, because that is exactly what we were trying to do in those gym sessions. We wanted to lose weight, and we thought that the best way of doing that was cardio, cardio, cardio. But here's the thing. Research comparing people who dieted while doing strength training versus people who dieted while walking, which was the researchers' version of cardio, they found that the walking group did lose weight, but they also lost significant muscle along with the fat. Instead, the strength training group lost more fat and kept more muscle. Very different results. Because here's the thing, losing weight without preserving muscle is not actually a genuine body transformation. It's just becoming a smaller version of the same body, but with a slower metabolism underneath it. I remember reading that research and thinking, oh, okay, this explains it. That is exactly what I was doing for years in all those lunchtime gym session when I was giving up my lunch break to go sweat it out in the gym. And I would lose the weight and then gain it back and lose the weight and gain it back again. And I was creating a smaller version of the same body over and over again and then regaining all that weight and wondering what was wrong with me. So if you recognize that cycle, I want you to know nothing's wrong with you. The strategy was wrong. And now you know that there is a better one. And I want to be clear about something important. I am absolutely not telling you the cardio is bad. I do some form of cardio most days. I do walking pretty much every single day. I think it's one of the most underrated health tools available, and I'll never give it up. I do other forms of cardio most days as well. But the research shows that action combining cardio and strength training together produces the best overall health outcomes. And that is exactly what I do and what I suggest to the women that I work with. Because the ideal is not just strength training instead of cardio. No, it is strength training alongside cardio. But this is the thing for most of us women who spent years doing cardio almost exclusively. Let's be honest, there's a reason why the phrase cardio queen exists. Adding strength training is the shift that can change everything. Not replacing cardio, adding. Now, this is the part when I want to show you how far beyond aesthetics this whole concept of muscle really goes. And I'm going to keep this as a conversation, not a science lecture. But I want to really highlight the three things that muscle does that go beyond how you look and that truly affect the quality of your life. And I'm going to start with the stories because the science makes so much more sense once you care about what it is actually explaining. So, thing one, and this genuinely surprised me when I first understood it properly. I want you to imagine two women, same age, similar lifestyle, similar habits. One has meaningfully more muscle on her body than the other. What is the difference between them? Well, the woman with more muscle burns calories while she is asleep, while she is sitting at her desk, while she is watching television, not doing exercise, during all of it, all of life, just by literally having more muscle on her body. And the research shows that muscle accounts for a significant share of the calories your body burns just to keep you alive and functioning each day. More muscle mass means more of your body is actively using energy around the clock. And in midlife and beyond, when hormonal changes are already slowing things down, this matters enormously. Building muscle is one of the most powerful things you can do for your metabolism. Not a restrictive diet, not more hours on the treadmill, muscle. And when I really understood this, I remember thinking, oh, okay. I spent decades running on treadmills to burn calories for an hour, going on those spinning bikes, on the ellipticals, on the Stairmasters, when I could have actually been building something that worked for me every hour of the day, muscle. That is not a small realization. Now, thing two that muscle does for you that goes beyond pure aesthetics. And this is one that I genuinely think doesn't get talked about enough in the context of women's health. Your muscle is your body's primary system for clearing sugar from your bloodstream after you eat. When you eat a meal, and your blood sugar rises, it is largely your muscle that takes up and uses that glucose, which means that the health and the volume of the muscle in your body directly affects how well your body manages blood sugar day to day. Does that surprise you? Because it definitely surprised me. And this matters, particularly midlife and beyond, because one of the things that changes during perimenopause and menopause and postmenopause is how efficiently our bodies respond to insulin, the hormone that manages blood sugar. And research consistently shows that having more muscle is associated with even a reduced risk of blood sugar problems and the cluster of health issues: raised blood sugar, excess abdominal fat, blood pressure changes that tend to worsen after menopause. So, building muscle is literally helping your body manage blood sugar levels better every session, whether or not the scale moves. And let's move on to thing three that muscle does for you. So, I want to just give you one number here, just one, and I want you to genuinely hear it. Research has found that moderate weekly strength training, and the research that I came across, we're talking 20 to 60 minutes per week total, is associated with approximately a 29% lower risk of dying from heart disease, cancer, diabetes, and any other major cause in older women compared to women who do none. So, we're talking about 20 to 60 minutes total strength training per week, which leads to a 29% lower risk of dying. I want you to honestly ask yourself right now, if somebody told you that doing something for 20 minutes a week could lower your risk of dying from heart disease, cancer, or diabetes by nearly 30%, would you do it? Of course you would. That is what we're talking about here. That is what is sitting there available in the form of two strength training sessions a week with some weights or even just your own body weight. And it doesn't stop there. Everything I've shared so far is about what muscle does for your metabolism, your blood sugar, and how long and how well you live. And those things are genuinely profound. But I want to tell you about two more benefits of muscle that get even less airtime. And one of them is the most personal thing I could share with you in this entire episode. Let me start with your bones, because I think this is one of the most underappreciated reasons for women in midlife and beyond to prioritize strength training. And it connects directly to something I think about a lot: the quality of life I want to have in my 60s, 70s, 80s, and beyond. So I want you to picture yourself at 80. What are you doing? Are you still moving freely? Are you still traveling? Are you still doing the things you love? Hold that image, because What you do right now in this season of your life is what determines whether that picture becomes your reality. And here's a statistic that stopped me when I came across it. Research estimates that approximately 40% of women over the age of 50 will experience a bone fracture caused by weakening bones during their remaining lifetimes. Hip fractures, in particular, are associated with a significant loss of independence and serious health complications. Let's just pause there for a second. 40% of us women, that is nearly half of us. That is terrifying. And here is what the research also shows: strength training can help maintain or even modestly increase bone density in women. And that directly helps counteract the natural decline of bone density that accelerates after menopause. And studies show that meaningful gains are possible with consistent training, which doesn't sound dramatic until you consider what the alternative of a steady annual decline actually is. So that's the thing. Every time you squat, you lift, you press, you carry a load, every time you put your body under load, you are stimulating your bone forming cells to work. You are making a deposit into your bone health account. You are literally investing in the version of yourself that is still active and independent and enjoys a high quality of life at 70 and 80 and beyond. That is not a small thing. That is your future. Now, I want to tell you about something personal, something I haven't talked about very much on this podcast at all. And like everything that I share that is personal and vulnerable, I am sharing it because I think it might be the most powerful illustration of what muscle can actually do in real life, not just in the research study, not in a body composition scan, not, but in the daily reality of living in your body. So, I've had lower back pain since I was a teenager. And it was one of the most significant injuries that ended the chapter of my competitive tennis years. And that lower back pain, in one way or another, followed me into adulthood in a way that's genuinely seriously affected my quality of life for years. It's not a minor inconvenience that once in a while I had sore back. No, it was a real, disruptive, at times debilitating physical problem. There were literally back flare episodes I had that put me out of action for days, sometimes weeks. I once had a particularly bad flare up that had me signed off from my corporate job for nearly a month, sent home to work remotely because I couldn't physically get to the office and sit in that chair for hours. And I know what you might be thinking. Oh, working from home for a month sounds nice. But I can tell you that when you're in that much pain, even with the most basic daily tasks of getting up and literally doing anything, and those basic daily tasks are genuinely difficult and painful, there is nothing nice about it. It was not a holiday. It was one of the harder periods of my life. And I've spent years managing this. I mean, chiropractor appointments, multiple rounds over many years when things got really, really bad. And if I'm honest, I just accepted it as part of how my body was, something to work around, something to manage and hope that I can manage the flare ups when they happen, and just a permanent feature of what my life was. And then in my early 40s, as part of my transformation, I decided that I wanted to start building real strength, not just losing weight, although I did more than 100 pounds, but actually building the muscles that support my spine and everything around it: my core, my abdominals, my back muscles, my glutes. And something started to change. It was gradual. There was no single dramatic moment, but At some point, I realized that the bad back days were fewer. The flare ups were less painful, less significant, and they were just rare. And then increasingly, just not happening. Now, I want to be completely clear about what I am saying and what I'm not saying here. I am not saying that strength training is a cure for all back problems. No, back problems are something that so many of us struggle with, and there's so many complex reasons about why that happens. I am not making medical claims, but what I am saying is that for me, personally, building strength in the muscles that support my spine has made a profound difference in my daily quality of life, almost more than anything else on my health journey. And I share that because I think it captures something important. The benefits of muscle are not primarily about how you look. They are not about a number on a scale. They are not about the rich girl arms. They are about whether you can get through an ordinary day without pain, whether your body is a source of capability or a source of limitation, whether the life you want to live is available to you now and in the future. And muscle changed that for me dramatically. And one more thing, briefly, because it deserves to be said. It's something I've experienced firsthand, and I've seen it with my clients as well. Research consistently shows that regular strength training is associated with lower rates of anxiety and depression. And I think the reason goes beyond the psychological. When you get measurably stronger, when you lift something you could not lift last month, it creates a genuine feedback loop of confidence and capability that travels far beyond the gym. You stop thinking of your body as something to manage. You start thinking of it as something that is on your side. And frankly, for most of us women who spent years in a complicated, sometimes adversarial relationship with our bodies, and I know this is many of you because it was me for many years, that shift is transformative. And it is one of the most quietest, yet most profound gifts that building strength has given me. Now, when the women I work with, they tell me they don't want to get too muscular, I always ask them the same question. What does too muscular actually mean to you? And then I ask them a different question. What do you actually want from your body? Not what you think you're supposed to want, not the aesthetic ideal you've been sold. What do you actually genuinely in your bones want? And I want you to just take a minute and answer that for yourself right now. Say it out loud or think through it clearly in your mind. Because when I ask women this, the answers they give almost never have anything to do with a specific look. Instead, the answers are that they want to feel strong, to have energy, to sleep well, to move without pain, to feel confident in their own skin on an ordinary Tuesday, to not be afraid of what's coming in the years ahead. And every single one of those things is supported by muscle. Every single one. And I want to say something to you if you've been avoiding weights because they feel like someone else's world. You who feels out of place in the weights section of a gym. You who is afraid of not knowing what you're doing with strength training, you're afraid of being judged or looking like you don't belong there. I get it. I see you. I've felt exactly the same way. And I want you to know the door is open whenever you're ready. Every person you've ever watched confidently lifting weights was once a complete beginner. Every single one of them had a first day. Getting a little guidance at the start from a trainer or a class or an online program or a knowledgeable friend or a coach that makes an enormous difference to building both the skill and the confidence to keep going. Because I don't want that temporary discomfort, which we all have it, of starting something new and feeling awkward and out of place, to stand between you and something that could genuinely change your life. Now, let me bring this down to earth because I know that for many of you, weights can feel unfamiliar and like brand new territory. So I want to make this as approachable as possible. So, how much do you actually need to do? Well, the research here is genuinely reassuring. 2 sessions per week is the minimum effective dose for meaningful health benefits. The metabolic, the bone health, all the other health benefits we've been talking about. Not 6 days a week, not hours every day, just 2 sessions consistently over time. This is where results happen. Of course, if you feel like you have the time, the energy, the desire, do more. More is better, no question. But as a starting point, 2 sessions a week, I think is manageable for most of us. And I want to tell you about Michelle. She started with 2 sessions a week, 30 minutes each at home. She didn't go to the gym. She actually didn't even have any equipment to start. She just used her own body weight, learning the movements properly before adding anything else. And I do think that's a great place to start to avoid injury and to make sure you've got the proper form. Eventually, when she felt a bit more comfortable with it, she did order a pair of dumbbells online. And 6 months later, she sent me a photo of herself carrying her own suitcase through an airport laughing. And the caption um, of her photo said, "I used to make my husband carry this. I just carried it through 2 terminals without thinking about it." So that is what 2 sessions a week can look like in real life. Not a bodybuilder, not an Olympic athlete, but confidence, freedom, joy, a body that can do things. And when it comes to strength training, my advice is start with where you're at. You don't need to sign up to a gym. You don't need to start lifting weights immediately. You can do an effective body weight workout at home. But to get the best out of the strength training programs, the principle you need to understand is this: gradually make your workouts a little more challenging over time. A little more weight, a little more resistance. Tiny increments are enough, but the progression needs to happen because that progression, that is what tells your body to keep adapting and keep getting stronger. Without it, adaptation slows or stops. And again, you don't need to start with weights at all. Your own body weight is a completely valid and effective starting point. You can do really effective bodyweight exercises with the squats, lunges, push ups, planks, particularly when you're learning how to move properly to avoid injury, which matters far more than how much weight you're lifting when you first start out. And once you have the movement patterns down, once you feel comfortable with the holds, you can then start adding load when it feels right. The foundational movements to build your strength training program around are the squat, the hinge, the push, the pull, and the carry. Why is that? Well, these work the biggest muscles in your body and translate directly into the strength that makes everyday life easier and better. And many of them can be done at home with no equipment at all to start. And I will do a future episode that explains a little bit more about all these different exercises. But I do want to just reassure you that I completely transform my body, not only losing the weight, but building muscle without ever stepping foot in a gym. All my strength training exercises were at home or outside. So if you're sitting there thinking that you have to sign up to a gym, you have to go to a gym to make this happen, no, trust me, you don't. If you want to, if that's your happy place, if you find going to the gym motivating, fantastic. Go for it. Amazing. But I don't want to let the idea that you have to go to a gym to strength train. I don't want to let that idea stop you from making progress. And I want to say something else about the scales, that magic number on the scale, because this does come up a lot. And when you start strength training seriously, the scale may not move as quickly as you would expect, or it may barely move for a period. And that can happen. I've experienced this. And this is often because you are simultaneously losing fat and gaining muscle. And on the scale, those two things can offset each other while your body is actually transforming significantly in a positive way. The way your clothes fit, your strength, your energy, your pain levels, these things are telling you the real story. The scale is only one number. And in this context of building muscle and transforming your body, that number is the least informative one. So, trust the process, be consistent, be patient. The results come from genuine, sustainable strength training, and they are not as immediately dramatic as a crash diet, for sure. But they are real and they last, and they compound over time in ways that will genuinely change your health and your life. So, here's what I want you to do today, this week. Not next week, not next month, this week. Either schedule your first session at home in the gym, or if you already do some strength training, I want you to challenge yourself a little bit. Pick up a slightly heavier weight than you normally would and see what happens. Just do one thing, one step, because that is literally how every transformation works. Now, let me come back to where we started this episode. Those two comments from those two women on my photos, the rich girl arms and the too muscular, I would never want those arms. Both of those comments were about how my arms looked. And appearance, while absolutely it matters to all of us to some degree, it is actually only the very surface layer of why muscle matters. Because underneath those photos is me, a woman who has not had a serious back episode in longer than I can remember, a woman who spent decades managing serious life disrupting back pain, who's missed work, was weeks out of action, and who worse worked from home for nearly a month in genuine pain, and who built her way out of that through strength. Not through medication, not through anything dramatic, through consistently, patiently. Underneath those photos was me, is me. A woman who has not had a serious back episode in longer than she can remember. A woman who spent decades managing real, serious, life disrupting back pain, who missed work, who had weeks out of action, who once worked from home for nearly a month in genuine pain, and who built her way out of that through strength and building muscle, not through medication, not through anything dramatic, through consistency, patiently building the muscles that support her body. So, those arms, to me, they're not a look, they're a life. And that is what I want for you. Not arms that fit a particular image, a body that is strong enough, healthy enough, capable enough to carry you through every adventure and ambition and joy that the years ahead have to offer. So, wherever you are right now, I urge you to reconsider your relationship with muscle, not as a vanity project, not as something for Olympic athletes or bodybuilders, as one of the most important investments you will ever make in your own health, your own independence, and your own future. You've absolutely got this, and I'm cheering you on every single step of the way. Now, just three quick things before I let you go. First, if you'd love some personalized support in building a strength training practice, and your own health transformation approach that is genuinely, specifically yours, my one-to-one VIP coaching is exactly that. A real conversation that produces a real roadmap built around your body, your life, and your goals. Details in the show notes. Second, if cravings are something that gets in the way of your health journey, I've been building something specifically for those moments. Not more rules, not more willpower, real practical support for the actual moment when a craving hits. The waitlist is open right now. Go and sign up so you're the first to know when it launches. And third, do me a favor, please. If this episode shifted something for you, please share it with the woman in your life who's been avoiding strength training because she's afraid of bulking up or having muscles that are too big. With the woman in your life who's been doing cardio for years and wondering why things are not changing. Just forward it. Just I thought of you. That is always enough. A review on Apple Podcasts takes less than 2 minutes and helps more women find this show. Every single one matters more than you know. I'd be so appreciative. And thank you for joining me for today's episode. If you want more real, honest guidance on losing weight and transforming your health sustainably in midlife and beyond, you're in the right place. Subscribe here and get my strategies, mindset shifts, and the tools that actually work for women 40 and above. No BS, no quick fixes, just real transformation. Don't forget, you deserve to feel good in your body and life. I believe in you and I'm cheering you on every single step of the way. I will see you in the next episode. Have an amazing day. For the obligatory legal disclaimer, I'm not a doctor, nutritionist, therapist, medical professional, or similar. All information shared on this podcast is purely for informational purposes and does not constitute medical advice. It is entirely your personal choice and responsibility as to what information you use. Please consult your own medical professional for any medical advice.